a lot of our students, over 500,000, are participating on scholarships in private schools. And so those kids, some of our highest achievers, are not getting captured in that assessment. And so as a result, I think it's to the detriment of Florida.
Hi, Commissioner. Thank you. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I'm a teacher in California with 5 kids. And when we were shut down, I was the teacher trying to teach 5 kids at home and also my husband too. And you were a beacon of hope, Florida was, knowing that you were standing up for what we felt was so insane and oppressive. So thank you. What sort of national impact do you think that Florida will be able to make? And are you taking steps to work with the Trump administration to implement what you're implementing in Florida to make it something that could be like quite frankly, another beacon of hope for those of us in blue states who are not seeing the same results that you're seeing in Florida?
Absolutely. I think first, I would say we are seeing the Florida model being taken to the nation. I thank God a couple weeks ago, the U.S. Supreme Court made a major decision when it came to parental rights and the ability to decide what sort of instruction and subject areas your children are going to be taught as it relates to sexual orientation and gender identity. Folks forget it was House Bill 1467 in 2023 that the governor signed that allowed parents to have a voice in the classroom by objecting to inappropriate materials for minors. And it was House Bill 1557, the Parental Rights in Education, in 2022 that the governor signed that talked about the prohibited instruction of sexual orientation and gender identity in kindergarten through 3rd grade. We came back the next year in House Bill 1069. Forgive me, I'm a lawyer, so I know all the numbers of these bills, so you can completely disregard it. But we came back and said the next year, no, K through 8, it's prohibited, and only in a manner that is age and developmentally appropriate when it comes to 9 through 12. Folks may ask, well, why did we do that 9 through 12? Well, because they talk about Supreme Court cases, and the reality is there is the Obergefell decision, there is the Bostock decision, and I think it's important that these Supreme Court cases be discussed on some of these major topics, particularly where I think the court got it wrong. Second, I would say, with respect to school choice, we've been working with the U.S. Department of Education, and our feedback has been towards what's known as the NAEP exam, the national assessment that is utilized every 2 years to kind of measure states. Florida is at a disadvantage when it comes to the NAEP exam because a lot of our students, over 500,000, are participating on scholarships in private schools. And so those kids, some of our highest achievers, are not getting captured in that assessment. And so as a result, I think it's to the detriment of Florida. But I think the biggest thing, the third thing, that Florida has done that has really brought national attention in the past couple weeks has created a consortium for universities to utilize as an accreditor. And so you have these 6 or 7 states that are partnering together that are going to make sure that universities who are seeking accreditation are getting an accreditor who's not going to impose an ideology on them. Some of you may know about SACS. SACS is an accrediting body that requires DEI for a university to receive its accreditation. And so you can imagine universities were stressed out, particularly under the Biden administration, whether or not they were going to maintain accrediting status, which is everything for a university, because they were now required to do DEI, and they fundamentally don't agree with that. I'll give you an example. The New College of Florida. Have any of you heard of that, where the governor took over and put his former commissioner of education? That university is a beacon of hope for conservatism, where we're going to make sure students don't have an ideology imposed on them, where they can speak freely about their conservative values without reprimand or without retribution, and they can be, they can be unabashedly conservative. And so I think by building out that accreditor, it's going to be one of those legacy items. To President Trump's credit, he did issue an executive order that said current accreditors cannot have requirements that violate state laws. So currently, SACS cannot engage in its ideology, but when President Trump moves on, and God forbid we switch administrations, you have to build something out so that there's a legacy that lives beyond the president. And Florida led the way by creating this consortium and a new accrediting body that will not require some of this invasive ideology that you're seeing by SAC. So those are some of the three things we're seeing at the national level that Florida's leading on. But let's be honest, Florida's a leader on all kinds of things across the nation. So I only picked three of many things I could have rattled off.